Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our SMSF episode of our Prime Partners webinars. We'll be talking about caps, pensions, and compliance, and what you need to look at for your SMSF starting from the start of the year instead of trying to cram everything in at 30 June. So thank you for joining. The chat will be open. We've got a few members of our team that will be helping respond there, and then we will have a Q&A at the end where I'll be answering some of your questions. So let's get on with it. Firstly, what's happening at Prime? So there's lots happening at Prime at the moment. Everything's going very well. We're doing Prime Insights every month. You might be used to seeing James, and I think James's name is here, although I am not James. And we'll be doing episodes like this every single month of relevant topics and things that we think you'll find interesting and might be of good use to you. We're constantly growing to serve you better. So new advisors, we've got lots of new people starting that specialize in different things. We've got team members that are specializing in R&D. Obviously, we have me with SMSF, and we still have our business services and personal teams. So we have a broad range of services that can help you. Also, more tools. We're constantly putting out new checklists, calculators. Oh, someone's raised their hand. What's happened here? Joe. Yes, Joe has raised his hand. He is an advisor that we work with, and if anyone wants Joe's details, please reach out. More tools, so checklists, calculators, and just updates. We're trying to do a lot more of that just to be able to help you navigate these environments. Next slide is a disclaimer. So this presentation is for general information purposes only. Based on my understanding of current superannuation and tax laws, doesn't take into account your personal circumstances and is not a substitute for tailored SMSF advice. Your presenter, for those of you who haven't met or spoken with me, my name's Daniel. I'm a director and I head up the SMSF division here at Prime Partners. I've been with Prime for about almost 3 years now. And in that time, we have experienced growth and everything has been very good. And I trust that you're all very happy with our service. If not, please let me know. Okay, why the start of the year matters. So the start of the financial year is often a time where people forget about their tax, especially when it comes to super. They think everything was done up to 30 June and they don't have to worry about it until we start doing the next year's tax return. However, if these things are left, the problems build slowly. They don't build from the start of the year. So missed minutes, strategies, or other documents that are unsigned, and also tax planning, those things need to happen early just to make sure that we don't miss anything. So a new year is the cleanest reset. So we start off a new year, we can start planning. We can see where everything's at and get everything into where it should be. Also costly items. So there's a lot of scenarios in super that can end up with negative circumstances. So it's very important that you're in touch with us and, that you're in touch with us and making sure that we're with you on the journey to make sure that you're not missing anything and not going to have any penalties or anything kind of costly happen to you or your fund. I'm going to go over 7 different areas here. So we're going to cover on some borrowing, some contributions. We'll go over a little bit about pensions and drawdowns, also investment strategies. It's been a hot topic at the moment. Trustee records, compliance checks, and just sequencing the financial year. So we'll get started onto that. SMSF property borrowing is changing. So this is probably the hottest topic at the moment. This has taken away a little bit of the heat that was being given to the government about the budget. This came out of nowhere. So what they have done is all new residential borrowing will be stopped from, I think the date is mid-August. So if you enter into a contract in an SMSF to purchase a property that's residential, if that contract is signed and exchanged before their cutoff date, which is 45 days after royal assent, I think it was 10th of August to be exact, you will still be allowed to purchase residential with an LRBA. Anything after that, this is stopping. You can still purchase residential property in SMSF, just the borrowing part of it is not allowed anymore. And this was a strategy that a lot of people were using, especially a lot of young people that kind of wanted to get into the property market. And this has put a stop to that. Commercial property or business real property is still allowed, and you can still borrow to purchase those kinds of properties. But anything residential, they have cut out. And I think there's a few things that kind of led to this. Probably the biggest driver of this, I think, is the government trying to help first home buyers. I think this might actually genuinely help first home buyers. I have a bit of an opinion about their other rules, but this one might do a little bit of a job. So why it's happening, we've already covered that. Let's go to the next slide. What it means, so existing arrangements are safe. So current borrowing and contracts are not affected. If you already own a property and you have an LRBA, nothing changes. Everything continues as is. And also, it is a small slice of the market. So SMSF borrowing is under 1% of total residential property borrowing. But the SMSF market is quite large. So that 1% is still a very large number. Obviously, this will slow that down a little bit. But there were always people purchasing commercial. I think commercial was a bigger play, and that hasn't been touched. So that's still allowed. So business owners that want to, for example, purchase the premises that they are working out of, and they need to borrow to do that, they can still use an SMSF to do that and then lease back to their business. That kind of structure is still allowed, and that hasn't changed. It's more just the residential property that's changed. Moving on to contributions. So there's two caps with contributions. You have concessional and non-concessional. Both caps have increased this year. So the concessional contributions cap has gone from 30,000 to 32,500, and non-concessional has gone from 120 to $130,000 per year. One thing that a lot of people don't know is that you can use unused concessional contributions from prior years. So you can bring forward up to 5 years. So in the last 5 years, if you haven't maxed out your concessional contributions, you can add up how much you were short each year and basically put that much into the SMSF in 1 year as a concessional contribution. Where this can be useful is if you are going into a year where you're expecting a large capital gain or kind of a much higher income, you could put in a concessional contribution to offset that income. So concessional contributions that go into super are tax deductions. So if you have a lot of unused concessionals, it could be an effective way to kind of reduce the tax on gains personally. Spreading contributions throughout the year. So it's always a big rush in June, people trying to get funds into SMSF. Sometimes they miss the deadline. Sometimes the payment doesn't go through in time. If you make smaller contributions throughout the year, when we get to the end of the year, it might just be a smaller top up. And if anything goes wrong with that, a lot of it might already be in there. So spreading it out over the year can be an effective strategy to make sure you don't miss out on making those contributions throughout the year. Pensions. So pensions are very important. Once you move into pension phase, the main benefit to pension phase is that you become tax-free. So when you are over 60 and retired, or you reach age 65 and you move into pension phase, your pension balance becomes tax-free. So all income, dividends, rent, distributions become tax-free, along with capital gains. When you move into pension phase, the only thing that remains taxable to a super fund is concessional contributions. They still get taxed at 15%, but all income becomes tax-free. Now, where the kind of trap with this is if you don't meet the minimum, so once you move into pension phase, you need to draw a minimum. This minimum changes based on your age, and you need to draw that amount every year. If you don't draw that amount, or if you're short of that amount, you lose that tax-free status. So planning your pensions is very important. You should reach out to us. We will usually reach out to you, but reach out to us at the start of the year and say how much I need to draw this year, and maybe scheduling that out over 12 months can help avoid the problem of not being able to meet the minimum. A lot of people get to June and then they see the minimum and they might not have enough cash, or there might be some other problems. So it can be a tricky situation, and it's a good strategy to kind of spread that out throughout the financial year. Also very important, it has to come out before 30 June. So the funds need to leave the SMSF before 30th of June to count as a pension payment. If they're made in July, they don't count. So yeah, spreading that out over the year is a very good strategy. Investment strategy. This is something that a lot of people kind of set and forget. This is something that is very important to your SMSF, and you should speak with your advisors and make sure that this is up to date. This is a very common audit query or audit problem, where if the fund investments fall out of the strategy, then we need to get a new one. We actually can't lodge a tax return or finalize the audit without a new investment strategy, and it does open up a can of worms and can cause some compliance issues. So being on top of that, making sure you know what's in it and reviewing it is very important to avoid issues when it gets to audit time. Moving on, documentation. So in an SMSF, there are a lot of documents. They are all very important and they all need to be kept. So we do keep all your documents for you if we are doing your SMSF, and we will generally be on top of this sort of stuff. But as trustees, it's your responsibility to make sure that this stuff is in order. So when lump sums are made out of the SMSF or pensions, contributions, strategy reviews, all of these things need to be accompanied with minutes. So those things are very important to be minuted. When we get to audit time, these are things that the auditors always ask for. And if they're not there, it can cause problems. It means we can't lodge. They might qualify the audit report if the auditor is not happy with the documents that are provided to them. So keeping records throughout the year, making sure that every time you do something that it's communicated with your advisors and with us to make sure that everything is in order and kept where it should be, avoids that kind of problem. Heads up on the side here. So documents need to exist when the decision is made. You can't backdate them or write them as you go. So make sure that when you're thinking of doing something in super, give us a call first and we can help you out through that process and make sure that you're not breaching any rules or causing any problems for yourself. Compliance. Catching compliance issues early is always the best scenario. And the way that you catch these things early is by speaking with us. So feel free to give me a call whenever you like. Give your advisor a call when you're not sure about something. The reason for that being is a lot of compliance issues are not very obvious. They can seem like they're okay, but they're not. So it's very important to check what you're doing in your SMSF with advisors and professionals to make sure that everything is as it should be, and also as you're doing them. Because if these things happen and we or the auditors or whoever it may be don't find out for 12 months, they can be much harder to fix 12 months down the track than now. So we can put plans in to rectify problems or do things a different way if we know from the start. If we don't know, these things kind of linger in the background and they can cause problems. The auditors will probably put you on the ATO's radar, and it's good practice to kind of check things before doing them, especially with SMSFs. So the key issues that are coming up are related party rules. So transactions that involve members and relatives or even related companies, anything kind of related needs to be at arm's length and also needs to be within the rules. There are a lot of things that you cannot do in super. So it's very easy to pick up the phone and give us a call and we will confirm what is okay and what is not. In-house asset limit. This is one where you kind of do have a related party asset, but if it's under 5% of the fund's value, it can be okay. The trap with this one is that if at any point it goes over 5% during the year, that will still cause a compliance issue. So if you do have some sort of in-house assets in an SMSF, it's very important to track the value of that against the value of your fund, because if you're breaching that 5%, it can cause problems. Also loans and use of assets. So any personal use of SMSF funds is a no-no. Unless, of course, you're drawing them out as a pension, then you're fine to do whatever you like with them. You've withdrawn them from the superannuation environment. But if there's funds in an SMSF and you're using them for something that's personal or not for If it doesn't meet the sole purpose test, so basically to provide for you in retirement, it's a no-no. Um, Next slide is sequencing. So when we start the year, it's a good time, as I mentioned before, confirm your contribution caps, confirm pension minimums, and have a look at your investment strategy. This gives you a really good baseline for the year and ensures that you enter the year and go through the year and then get to the end of the year in a good position. You're not worried, you know where everything's at. There's no problems that might creep up. It's a very good way to kind of negate those issues. Getting the order right. So the start of the financial year is a common time for people to start pensions. Um, so it's very important to review that, review contributions or review any contributions that you're planning to make. Make sure the documents are in order, make sure it's all planned out properly, and that kind of makes sure that you're headache free. Um, Next slide. Oh, that was very quick. I know James likes to talk a lot, but I'm a little bit quicker than him. So I'll probably jump in and see if we've got any questions. Give me one moment while I figure out how to get there. So I can see Melinda's entered this one. So if anyone does have any questions, please post them. I'll hang around for a few more minutes to see if any come through. If they don't, feel free to send me an email, give me a call. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I'll skip by this for now and I'll check back in a couple of minutes to see if any questions pop up. Side note, we're hiring. So we're always hiring. We're looking for good people. Please. Okay, so it looks like the chat's been disabled. If you have questions, if you can put them in the Q&A section, that will make sure they come through to me. Okay, so I'll get back to these in a second. So yes, we're hiring accountants, SMSF specialists, anyone kind of in the industry. If you know someone that might be looking for work or you know someone that might be a good fit for us, please give them our details. A referral from someone that we work with, someone that we trust means a lot, and it's usually a lot better than hiring from outside. So if you do know someone, please send them our way. We are a technically strong team. We focus on our clients. There's a lot of room to grow here, and I think it is a very good culture and a good place for people to be. Also, before I get back into the questions, if you enjoyed today, I'm going to leave this on the screen. Please leave us a Google review. It really helps us when people give good feedback. So a lot of the time, good feedback doesn't come through. It might just be we had issues and we fixed them, like we fixed up a problem really quickly and you're very happy, but people often forget to leave a Google review. People kind of only like to leave negative reviews, unfortunately. That's what usually happens. So if you are enjoying our service, you do enjoy these webinars, you do enjoy hearing me speak or James speak, please give this a scan and leave us a review. It means a lot. So I'll jump into these questions because I can see they're coming through now. So related party transaction, Catherine. Hi, Catherine. Hope all is well. An example of a related party transaction might be, or a related party kind of structure. So if you've got a commercial property in SMSF and that's leased to your business, for example, that is a related party, but that is allowed, but it has to be on arm's length, which means every single year you need to get a rental appraisal and make sure that that rent is in line with what the market is paying. If it falls out of that, it can look like you're trying to give advantage to the SMSF or you're trying to give advantage to the business, which is not allowed. So it's anything to do with related parties. If it's allowed and we've kind of gone over it, it's very important to make sure that these things remain at arm's length, they call it. That's a very important rule. So making sure that everything's done at market rates no one's getting any special kind of treatment, and then it's usually okay. Hello, Ferry. Hope all is well with you. Yes, feel free to email me, and that goes to everyone. Feel free to send me an email if you do think of questions after the fact. James, 5% in-house asset. So an in-house asset is a related party transaction. So for example, if there's a loan made to a related party, like if you had to loan some money to your business, for example, for cash flow, that needs to remain under 5% if it's not an LRBA. It's basically anything to do with yourself or your related entities usually falls under the in-house. There are exceptions. Yeah, anything that's kind of going to the members or benefit to the members, very important that doesn't go over 5%, and it usually can't go on for too long. Hi, Alex. Yes, that's all good. Okay. It looks like all the questions are answered. Melinda's answered a couple as well. So yeah, once again, thank you everybody. If you have questions after the fact, feel free to give me a call, send me an email, and we'll answer them. And hope to hear from you all soon. Thank you.